Coming up today, the UN Security Council convenes an emergency meeting on North Korea's latest test firing of a submarine-launched ballistic missile, as condemnation of the regime rings out from the international community. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un hails the missile launch, calling it the regime's greatest success. He claims the US is now within striking range. First, we have the latest on the earthquake in Italy. More than 150 people died as the tremor shook mountain villages to the ground. More are missing and feared dead. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello, it's noon on Thursday, the 25th of August. You're tuned in to our midday newscast here on Arirang TV. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Broom. We are going to begin with the global reaction to North Korea's latest provocation. The UN Security Council has convened an emergency meeting to discuss Pyongyang's launch of a submarine-launched ballistic missile, which was a clear violation of UN resolutions. The United States and the European Union have also responded with very strong remarks. Gunfire starts us off.
North Korea's submarine-launched ballistic missile test goes against the UN Security Council's resolutions on the regime, including the latest, strongest resolution 2270 in effect since March. In a move to condemn the launch and discuss measures to make Pyongyang abide by international rules, the 15-member council gathered at the UN headquarters Wednesday local time at the request of the United States and Japan. Earlier this month, a similar meeting triggered by North Korea's launch of ballistic missiles failed to issue a press statement due to China's opposition. UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon expressed deep concern about the latest development and said Pyongyang had ignored international calls for it to change its attitude. He urged North Korea to take measures to ease tension and at the same time return to talks on its denuclearization. Similarly, the United States on Wednesday strongly condemned Pyongyang's SLBM launch.
We call on the DPRK to refrain from actions and rhetoric that further raise tensions in the region and focus instead on taking concrete steps towards fulfilling its commitments and international obligations.
At the White House, spokesperson Josh Earnest said the possibility of additional sanctions cannot be ruled out, but at this point it's difficult to judge the need for them. The EU says North Korea must, quote, halt all missile launches using ballistic missile technology and abandon its ballistic missile programs in a complete, verifiable and irreversible manner. France also criticized Pyongyang's test through its foreign ministry, saying the launch threatens regional and global peace and security. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
So, as we heard there, the condemnation of North Korea has been deafening and universal. But there's one man who couldn't be happier. The regime's young leader, Kim Jong-un, says the SLBM launch is his country's greatest success. Kim Jong-soo has more.
Various experts and officials agreed that North Korea's test firing Wednesday of a submarine-launched ballistic missile was a success and shows the regime's missile technology has vastly improved. The North state-run Korean Central News Agency reported Thursday that Kim Jong-un closely supervised the launch and hailed it as Pyongyang's greatest success and one that pushes North Korea to the very front rank of nuclear military powers. The young leader also said the U.S. mainland and its operational theater in the Pacific are now within North Korea's striking range. The agency also released 24 photos of the launch, which shows Kim rejoicing with his subordinates. The missile was fired from waters near the eastern coastal city of Sinpo and flew over 500 kilometers before falling into the East Sea. And the regime has even grander plans. A U.S.-based analyst says North Korea will try to build a bigger submarine that can be equipped with larger missiles. This means Pyongyang will have to carry out more tests to perfect the technology.
They need to conduct these tests from the submarine itself. This doesn't mean that they will not use the submersible test stand barge.
On the launch day, analysts identified tire tracks around the inland missile ejection facility in Shimpo and also observed ongoing construction work at Yukdaesori, home to some of North Korea's major shipyards.
This new facility, which is not yet clear what it is, but could be also for construction or maintenance or some other activity related to new submarines.
South Korean government officials and military experts say the launches prove North Korea has made technological progress, adding the solid-fuel missile displayed improved guidance and re-entrance capabilities. Meanwhile, Japan has confirmed it was the first North Korean missile to come down within its air defense identification zone. The U.S. government has strongly denounced the launch, saying such provocations significantly threaten stability in Southeast Asia. Kim Jong-soo, Arirang News.
Now, a photo has been released that appears to show North Korea's SLBM flying up into the atmosphere. We're going to take a look at that photo now. It was taken by a pilot on an E-Star passenger plane, which was flying over South Korea's Cheonan city at an altitude of 9 kilometers when the missile was launched. As you can see, it appears to show the missile at a very high altitude with a long exhaust plume trailing behind it. Analysts say it's highly likely the object in that photo is the North Korean missile. Now, in other news, South Korea's ruling party held its first policy coordination meeting with the government and the presidential office since its new leader, Lee Jong-un, took over the reins earlier this month. Officials say that the three sides vowed to make improving the people's livelihoods their top priority, while calling for the opposition bloc's cooperation in that matter. The Saenuri Party's new leader emphasized the importance of close cooperation as they jointly hold the responsibility of conducting state affairs. Prime Minister Hwang Kyo-an called on all political parties to approve several economy-related bills, including one on labour reform, which is still in limbo at the National Assembly. President Park's chief of staff urged the swift passage of a multi-billion-dollar supplementary budget and a bill on regulation-free zones. He also called for measures to stabilise the economy ahead of next month's Chuseok holiday. The Korean government has laid out a new set of measures to curb the country's snowballing household debt. The amount now tops $1 trillion and is showing no signs of slowing down, despite an earlier government measure that kicked in this February. Our Hwang Ji-ae has more.
Korea's household debt, including sales on credit, continues to hit record highs. The Bank of Korea says the amount stood at around 1,258 trillion won, or roughly $1.1 trillion as of the end of the second quarter this year. That's the largest amount logged since related data was first run in 2002 and up 2.7% from a quarter earlier. The rise was led by the growth of household loans, including mortgages, on the back of an upbeat real estate market, coupled with a record low key interest rate of 1.25%. The government tightened the guidelines for screening loan applicants in the capital region in February and across the nation in May, but with the rise in debt showing no signs of a slowdown resulting in the quality of debt worsening, it announced new measures to tackle the issue on Thursday. The focus of the fresh government plan is curbing the skyrocketing pace of so-called collective loans that conduct relatively lax stress tests among borrowers of apartment mortgages. The collective loans took up almost half of the increased amount of mortgage loans in the first half from the end of last year. The tighter government guidelines also transferred the debt pressure to the non-banking sector, especially among people with low incomes and low credit. Of the $30 billion increase in the April to June period, around half of the loans came from the non-banking sector, which has higher interest rates. Experts say the mounting debt problem could put a significant dent in already fragile private spending. Hwang Ji-ae, Arirang News.
Now staying with economic news, and while Korea's overall exports have been on a downward trend for months now, outbound shipments to Vietnam are faring pretty well. According to the Korea International Trade Association, exports to Vietnam reached over $18 billion as of July. That's up more than 10% from the same period last year. This is in stark contrast to Korea's overall exports, which fell over 10% during the same period. Vietnam accounts for over 6% of Korea's exports and stands as the nation's third largest export partner. And the growth has been fast. Back in 2009, the Southeast Asian country was Korea's 10th largest export partner, accounting for just 2% of Korea's exports. The rise was attributed to more Korean companies using Vietnam as a production base, as well as a bilateral free trade deal that took effect last December. A court in Seoul has ordered a Japanese company to pay compensation to Koreans who were put into forced labor during Japan's colonial rule of Korea. The Seoul Central District Court on Thursday ordered Mitsubishi Heavy Industries to pay compensation to 14 wartime laborers forced to work in Hiroshima from 1944 to 1945. The court awarded the plaintiffs $80,000 each, $10,000 less than their original request. The group filed suit against Mitsubishi in 2013, saying they had worked in dire conditions and had received no treatment after the atomic bomb that hit Hiroshima in 1945. Mitsubishi had argued the statute of limitations for compensation had expired. The death toll from the powerful earthquake to strike central Italy has reached at least 159, with scores more still missing. The quake struck at the worst time, in the dead of night, burying hundreds of people in their homes. Volunteers and rescue teams are continuing to search through the ruins for survivors. Park Jong-un reports.
Residents in the quake-devastated Italian towns are sleeping in tents exposed to the elements. In the meantime, volunteers and rescue crews are in a race against time to free those still trapped under the rubble.
The victims were concentrated mainly in 3 municipalities. At the moment, at least 120 lives were lost. This is a death toll that is not final.
The Prime Minister also called for national unity, sharing the grief of the nation. The magnitude 6.2 earthquake flattened mountain towns in central Italy, including Amatrice, which was voted one of Italy's most beautiful historic towns. Many people were caught off guard as the quake struck in the middle of the night. Experts say the damage was more severe than expected due to the relatively shallow epicenter, just 4 kilometers below the Earth's surface. Italy's Earthquake Institute reported 150 aftershocks, with the strongest measuring 5.5. The army was mobilized along with special heavy equipment, and the Treasury has released $265 million in emergency funds. Park Jong-un, Arirang News.
Now, the earthquake that struck Myanmar has damaged scores of historical structures in the ancient city of Bagan. According to the state-run newspaper there, at least 185 ancient Buddhist pagodas in the city collapsed in the 6.8 magnitude quake which struck the center of the country on Wednesday. Now, Bagan is the country's most famous archaeological site, with over 2,000 structures, including pagodas and temples, built in the 10th to 14th centuries. The quake also damaged Myanmar's parliament building and shook tall buildings in other major cities there. The natural disaster killed at least 3 people, and aftershocks were felt in neighboring Thailand, Bangladesh, and even India. Suspected militants have stormed the Kabul campus of the American University in Afghanistan. Sources say one security guard was killed and more than 20 students were wounded in the attack on Wednesday evening local time. Witnesses say some students jumped from second-floor windows to escape the gunfire and explosions, breaking their legs. Faculties and dozens of students were trapped in the compound. A government official says elite Afghan forces have surrounded the university. 2 gunmen were said to be hiding inside the building, and a clearing operation had been launched. No one has yet claimed responsibility for the attack. Now, scientists have discovered an Earth-like planet that's not too far away, at least in cosmic terms. It's the closest planet to our solar system and the most important discovery in more than 20 years, as it could potentially be able to sustain life. Ian Shin has more.
They call it Proxima b, an Earth-like planet orbiting the closest star to our solar system. After years of research, a group of international scientists has confirmed the existence of the planet by measuring the subtle color changes of the light coming from its host star, Proxima Centauri. So, what makes this planet so much like Earth? According to their announcement on Thursday and reports in the journal Nature, the scientists are positive Proxima b, with a mass of 1.3 Earth masses, is similar to Earth in its shape and composition. So unlike a gas ball such as Jupiter, this rocky planet has a surface that one could possibly stand on. And that's not all either. This planet also provides hope of finding life beyond Earth, as it possibly contains the essentials for life.
We have no clue whether this planet has an atmosphere or not, whether it has water or not, but the existence of it is actually plausible.
The temperature of the surface of Proxima b without the atmosphere is minus 40 degrees Celsius. But if it does have an atmosphere, the temperature would increase through the greenhouse effect to above 0 degrees, where liquid water becomes possible. It would also be another similarity this exoplanet shares with ours, as the surface temperature of the Earth would also be below zero, at around minus 20 degrees Celsius in fact, without an atmosphere. Located only about 4.2 light-years away, Proxima b has also made researchers hopeful about the potential robotic exploration. One team led by a Russian entrepreneur and physicist Stephen Hawking has already announced a project to develop a fleet of iPhone-sized spacecraft equipped with cameras that would travel to the Alpha Centauri star system, which includes Proxima Centauri. Yun Shin, Arirang News.
Now, non-Korean coins thrown into Seoul's Cheonggyecheon stream will be used to help children in water-stressed countries. The Seoul Metropolitan Facilities Management Corporation says it has donated 35,000 foreign coins thrown from January through July to UNICEF Korea in the name of Seoul citizens. The corporation, which has been donating foreign coins from the Coins of Luck pile to international relief organizations every year since 2006, did not release the monetary value of the coins. Korean coins were put toward tuition fees for high school students from low-income households in Seoul. Well, that's all we have for now. Wherever you're watching us, have a great rest of the day or night, and we'll have more news for you coming up at 3 p.m. Korea time. That's in a little under 3 hours from now. So until then, goodbye.